eliminate an evil is fundamentally flawed and will have far-reaching negative consequences. And Madam Speaker, for these reasons, I cannot support this bill as written. I urge the government to go back to the drawing board and get this legislation right for the sake of the LGBTQ community and for all Canadians. Thank you.
The honourable member will have the 5 minutes of questions after oral questions. No? 10 minutes, sorry. 10 minutes, yes. 10 minutes of questions after oral questions. Statements by members. The honourable member for Brampton Centre.
Deteriorating humanitarian situation within Tigray region of Ethiopia has been heartbreaking for Canadians across the country to witness. As the number of refugees fleeing the region grows and the violence towards innocent people continues, I want to reiterate Canada's call for immediate de-escalation and for a peaceful resolution between both parties. The human rights violations taking place, particularly against women and girls, are beyond horrific. The protection of civilians must be upheld in accordance with international law and humanitarian principles. In doing our part, I want to commend Minister Gould on providing $3 million in aid to help those affected by the conflict in Tigray and to those who have fled into Sudan seeking safety. This funding will respond to urgent needs, including emergency healthcare, shelter, and non-food items, water, and sanitation and protection. Our government will always speak out against human rights abuses, no matter where they occur, and reiterate our commitment to peaceful resolutions.
The honourable member for Brampton Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's agreed that the systemic racism is a reality in many institutions in Canada. I want to enlighten this House how power is misused to suppress and discriminate within the community itself. In 2015 election, a powerful person as a co-chair inducted candidates linked to World Sikh Organization, Anti-India and other allies. Further got preferential positions into government to conduct their common motives. These acts of institutional systemic racism sidelined the talented individuals and organizations and affected my riding too. I urge in future all political parties and the government should take preventive measures through bold steps to curb such challenges so as to provide equal opportunity to Canadians. Thank you.
The honourable member for Bruce Grey Owen Sound.
Madam Speaker, last Thursday it was announced that Bruce Grey Owen Sound business, Hydrogen Optimized, has been awarded $4.8 million of federal funding to support their $12 million program to advance, scale, and commercialize their technology. Hydrogen Optimized is a sustainable energy conversion company. This innovative business enables the production of green hydrogen from green electricity that will be essential in supporting fossil fuel industries as sustainability leaders. I had the opportunity to meet with Hydrogen Optimized and tour their facility, and I believe it is important to continue to invest in Canadian cutting-edge clean technology. This Canadian company is playing a part in advancing our global leadership in the clean tech market, helping the environment while creating jobs and economic growth in the riding and eventually across Canada. I'd like to congratulate Hydrogen Optimized on all their success thus far and looking forward to seeing what they will accomplish in the future.
The honourable member for York Centre.
Madam Speaker, today marks the end of the 4th annual Jewish Heritage Month. It's been a time to reflect on the diverse contributions of Jewish Canadians to this great country from coast to coast to coast. I've had the pleasure of joining with Jewish community members and colleagues to celebrate the local histories of Jewish Canadians in communities across the country. In 2018, this Parliament unanimously passed the bill making Jewish Heritage Month a reality. Right now, Jewish Canadians need each and every one of our support. The past few weeks have seen a sharp and disturbing rise in anti-Semitism across the country. Vicious symbols and slogans of hate, invoking the Holocaust and calling for death to Jews, intimidation in Jewish neighborhoods, repeated acts of anti-Semitic violence and vandalism, all directed at Jewish people, businesses, and communities in Canada. This must stop. It is not Canadian and has no place in our country. Hate cannot be allowed to fester or it will grow and threaten every community. None of us are immune. We must stop anti-Semitism and all forms of hate, wherever and whenever it arises.
The Honourable
The Honourable Member for Thérèse de Blainville. Madam Speaker, workers under federal jurisdiction are suffering from an injustice that dates back to another era. I'm referring to the fact that the Canada Labour Code does nothing to prevent employers from hiring scabs during strikes or lockouts. The right to strike is an essential tool that allows workers to exercise their fundamental right to bargain freely. By allowing employers to hire scabs, workers are deprived of this right. This practice has been prohibited under Quebec's Labour Code since 1977. It's high time it was prohibited at the federal level. I join with Unifor workers who launched a campaign on May 13th for the adoption of an anti-scab law at the federal level. It's high time to fix this injustice and get with the times. Thank you.
Honorable député d'Orléans.
The Honourable Member for Orleans. Thank you, Madam Speaker. On May 26th, I had the pleasure of participating in a lively discussion with some 20 students in a civics class at Mer Bleu Catholic College in Orleans. The teacher, Mr. Zachary Boisvert, and the students all had very insightful questions. I was delighted to join the class to explain the legislative process to them, and they loved the in-class simulation of a debate in the House of Commons. They learned the importance of doing research in drafting a bill and the need to introduce and debate it. I also had the pleasure of discussing my role and experience as a member of Parliament and the opportunity we get to introduce our own legislation during private members' business. I'd like to sincerely thank them all for inviting me and for their civic engagement. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Last week, the government said it intends to put a rover on the moon. This came after the member from Nunavut spoke truth. Federal institutions like the House of Commons are not easily changed, and governments don't help Indigenous peoples without an immense amount of pressure. This begs the question, how can the government talk about putting a rover on the moon, symbolically claiming more territory for Canada, while being content to allow the generational impacts of Canada's colonialism to go unaddressed? We live under the shadow of gross inequalities and injustices faced by First Nations and Indigenous persons. Lack of clean drinking water, deplorable housing conditions, systemic racism, abuse, neglect, human trafficking, erasure of culture and tradition, human rights abuses, 215 children in a mass grave. This is Canada's shame to bear and Canada's responsibility to make right. Let this government not reach for the moon without first bringing justice to the people whose traditional territories upon which Canada stands.
L'Honorable Député de Lac-Saint.
The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Louis.
Last Friday, a Canadian radio icon, Terry DeMonte, signed off the CHOM airwaves for the last time after a stellar 40-year-plus career as a broadcaster that began in Churchill, Manitoba, and led him back to his native Montreal, where he spent nearly 3 decades greeting morning listeners with friendly repartee, good humor, comforting words at difficult moments in the city's history, and great music and musical anecdotes. Montrealers on Friday listened misty-eyed, and that includes me, Mr. Speaker, to an outpouring of love and appreciation for Terry from radio colleagues and musician friends like Jan Arden and Krista Berg, not to mention from the Prime Minister, who, in an extraordinary on-air conversation with Terry, reminisced about their long-standing friendship interwoven with distinctly Montreal stories. Thank you, Terry, for shaping our sense of ourselves as Montrealers. Merci, Terry, et meilleurs.
Thank you, Terry, and best wishes to you and Jessica. Say hello to life, my friend.
The Honourable Member for Mount Royal.
Mr. Speaker, today is the last day of Jewish Heritage Month. Unfortunately, this month, the celebrations have been overshadowed by the greatest wave of anti-Semitism that I have seen in my lifetime. Events in the Middle East should not lead to hate in Canada, but they do. People in their 90s have told me that they have not felt this level of fear since the 1930s, the time of the Christie Pitts riots in Toronto, and our none is too many Jewish refugee policy. Some constituents have told me they are afraid to take their kids to the park. Schools and daycares have stopped letting their students leave school grounds at recess. An elderly couple told me they have taken their mezuzah off their door. This should not be happening in Canada. I call on all my colleagues to publicly denounce anti-Semitism in Canada. Please issue a public statement if you have not already done so. Countering hate is all of our responsibility.
The Honourable Member for Stormont Dundas, South Glengarry.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to pay tribute to Bill Makinson, a well-known local media personality and civic leader in Cornwall and surrounding communities, who announced that after volunteering and working with Your TV in Cornwall since 1976, he will retire on Friday. While Bill has spent numerous hours in the studio, his commitment to volunteerism has been matched by only a few people over the years. Big Brothers Big Sisters, United Way, Crafting a Cure, the MS Golf Tournament, the Cornwall Area Chamber of Commerce, and the Canadian Alliance on Mental Illness and Mental Health, just to name a few. Bill, as you begin your next chapter in a well-deserved retirement, we've appreciated your leadership, dedication, and the difference you've made for many organizations. Thank you for going over and above your day-to-day responsibilities. We're expecting you and Sue to come back to Cornwall often as you move closer to your daughter and grandchildren, to see the many friends you've made and the organizations you've helped over the years. Well done on a successful career and record of service. Enjoy retirement.
The Honourable Member for Kingston and the Islands.
Mr. Speaker, today I'm honored to rise to recognize and congratulate a leader in my community of Kingston and the Islands, our local Chief Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Kieran Moore. Dr. Moore has arguably overseen the most effective localized pandemic response in Ontario. With expertise in disaster medicine, Dr. Moore knew early on in the COVID-19 pandemic that being prepared meant immediately redirecting and deploying critical health inspectors to long-term care homes to protect the most vulnerable in our community. Working with all stakeholders daily, the Kingston, Frontenac, Lennox and Addington Health Unit fared well throughout the past 15 months under Dr. Moore's leadership. That leadership has not gone unnoticed, Mr. Speaker. Today, the provincial legislature in Ontario will vote to appoint Dr. Moore as the new Chief Medical Officer of Health for Ontario. They could not have made a better selection, Mr. Speaker. There is no doubt that his acute attention to detail, combined with his energy, passion, and occasional hockey reference when explaining a situation, are exactly what this province needs to see us through the rest of the pandemic. Congratulations once again, Dr. Moore. You handled our community incredibly well, and I know Ontarians will be in great hands with you in this new role.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Riverbend.
Mr. Speaker, the Edmonton Oilers were eliminated from the Stanley Cup playoffs last week. After the fourth and final loss, as devastating as it was for the team and our fans, one teammate bore the brunt of online hate. Ethan Bear, an Indigenous player from Ochapowace First Nation, had to deal with racist comments targeted at him personally on social media. In response, Ethan made a brave video statement denouncing racism and to help make change for all people of color. But Mr. Speaker, his video shouldn't have to be made and shouldn't have to be called brave. It's 2021 in Canada. We've all been educated about the impact of racism and the harm of our words, but sadly, racism persists, and increasingly under anonymous social media accounts. This repugnant racial polarization is damaging to society. Ethan and his girlfriend Lenasia eloquently called out racism in their video, but to truly eradicate racism, we must all continuously and tenaciously do our part. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Souris Moose Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, the COVID-19 pandemic has brought many issues to light, and chief among them is the struggle Canadians are facing in accessing mental health services in a timely manner. Almost 6 months ago, this House voted unanimously in favour of a motion put forward by my colleague from Caribou Prince George to establish a 3-digit national suicide prevention hotline. Though nearly half a year has passed, the Liberals have yet to take action in this much-needed initiative. Thankfully, my riding has shown support for the establishment of this hotline. The communities of Radville, Elida, Fillmore, Torquay, Ogama, Yellowgrass, Frobisher, Kenosee, Weyburn, as well as the RMs of Bengoff, Lomond, and the Gap have all passed similar motions and are looking to the federal government to take some action. Canadians expect their government to fulfill their commitments and get them the help they need. While the Liberals continue to sit on their hands and do nothing, we Conservatives will keep on fighting to secure the mental health of Canadian citizens, now and into the future.
The honourable member for South Okanagan, West Kootenay.
Mr. Speaker, before I became an MP, I was a biologist, and one of the most exciting and fulfilling parts of that career was my time on the board of the Nature Conservancy of Canada. The person leading that organization was John Lowndes. When John joined NCC as CEO in 1997, it had several dozen employees and an annual budget of $8 million. As he leaves NCC this year, it has more than 350 employees, thriving programs in every province, and a budget close to $100 million. That success is in large part to John's quiet professionalism, guiding the NCC into major partnerships with the federal government. Combined, these programs have delivered more than $1 billion worth of conservation across the country, adding to the more than 14 million hectares of habitat protected in Canada with NCC's help. John Lowndes is a champion. He inspires others to dream of what Canada and the Earth can be if we put nature first. So thank you, John, and best wishes for your retirement.
The honourable member for La Prairie. Mr. Speaker, tonight millions of us will be in front of our TVs on our feet like our parents were before us, proud of our team like our grandparents were before them, confident that the greatest dynasty in the history of hockey can still make its magic. We'll see a bit of Maurice Richard in the determination of Gallagher, a bit of Patrick Roy in the brilliant skill of Price, a bit of Béliveau in Captain Weber, a bit of Carbonneau in the stick handling of Deneau, a bit of Lafleur in the shots by Caulfield, and a bit of Doug Harvey in the plays by Petrie. All the ghosts of the Montreal Canadiens will inhabit our team's dressing room, and millions of Quebecers will be out there on the ice with them. Believe you me, it's Game 7, we're the underdogs, and that's when we're at our most dangerous. 3 words, Mr. Speaker, 3 words that sound a bit English to you, but believe me, there's nothing more Quebec than these 3 words that all of Quebec will be shouting at the top of their lungs tonight. Go Habs, go!
The honourable member for Pitt Meadows, Maple Ridge.
Mr. Speaker, deaths from overdoses are in the headlines often, and rightfully so. Last year, a record 1,700 people died from overdoses in BC alone, an absolute tragedy. Lurking behind this is an even larger issue of substance abuse and addiction. Over 20%, or 8 million Canadians, will battle substance abuse at some point of their lives. Addiction is not a respecter of gender, of race or ethnic background, of position, of age, or political preference. The solutions are not simple. There are overlaps with a host of other social issues, including mental health and domestic abuse. And that's why today I introduce motion M88, calling on all members to recognize that we have reached a crisis point, and pleading with this government to take action by developing and implementing a federal framework for addiction recovery treatment. The lives of untold thousands of Canadians are literally at stake. Conservatives remain committed to securing access to addiction recovery treatment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Parkdale High Park.
In the Orange Shirt story, Phyllis Webstad writes about the abuse she endured as a Secwepemc girl at a residential school, denied the ability to wear her favorite shirt, to speak her language, to practice her culture. After a year of abuse, the story concludes with a reunion with her granny, where Phyllis had, quote, everything she needed, and she never went back to the residential school again. But not every child was as lucky as Phyllis. The shocking truth of those words was laid bare when we learned from the Secwepemc about a mass grave of 215 Indigenous kids, some as young as 3, on the grounds of the former Kamloops Indian Residential School. That is both shocking and heartbreaking, Mr. Speaker, speaking to the horrific legacy of a racist colonial policy of assimilation that took children's lives. We can't turn back the clock, but we must help with the healing. As a nation, we must determine the full scale of residential school deaths that took place across Canada. We must support survivors and properly mourn and memorialize those innocent souls taken. The memory of those who weren't as lucky as Phyllis deserves nothing less.
Oral questions. Question orale. The Honourable Deputy Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker,
Canadians have been grieving today and over the weekend after hearing the deeply sad and disturbing news of the remains of 215 Indigenous children found at a residential school in Kamloops. Empty shoes are being left on front steps across the nation and flags are being flown at half-mast. We are all so saddened for these children and for their families and for their relatives. Indigenous leaders have asked for a thorough probe to find out the identity of these precious little children. Can the government please update this House on what their plans are? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister.
Is there someone?
The Honourable Minister.
Is someone on mute?
Mr. Speaker, we are heartbroken by the discovery of the remains of 215 children in Kamloops. This is a horrific tragedy that has once again deepened the wounds of the survivors of residential schools, their families, and Indigenous people across Canada. We worked with the National Centre for Truth and Reconciliation to develop and maintain the National Residential School Student Death Register and to create an online registry of residential school cemeteries. We're working with the communities to develop culturally appropriate approaches to identifying the deceased children, locating burial sites, and memorializing those who died. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint-Laurent. Mr. Speaker, all Canadians are devastated and will be for a long time following the discovery in Kamloops. 215 bodies of Indigenous children were found in a mass grave near the residential school that they had attended. This is an indescribable horror. They were not even buried properly. The major Indigenous leaders in BC are asking that these children be first identified and their bodies returned to their families. Can the government tell us what is happening? The Honourable Minister.
Oui, merci, Monsieur.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Obviously, there is pain across the country. There is not a single community that has not been affected. The member opposite will be delighted to know that we are there for these communities. So will be there with the communities to respect their wishes. They are in mourning. They need support. I was able to speak to Chief Casimir Thursday evening, and he has my support in this process of conciliation and mourning over the coming weeks. We will be with them. We will be there on the front lines for the support that they need and will ask us over the coming weeks and months.
Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, Canada's economic relationship with the United States is breaking down rapidly. First, the Americans cancelled Keystone XL. This government was silent. Then the Americans put Line 5 on the chopping block and barely a peep from the Liberals. Now it's Canada's forestry sector. For months, the Liberals have been telling us how much they agree with the Americans. What's it going to take for this Liberal government to stand up for Canadian workers?
The Honourable Minister. The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker.
We are definitely disappointed by the recent announcement of the United States' Administrative Review 2 on softwood lumber. The duties are unjustified, they are unwarranted, they hurt our forestry workers and businesses, and they hurt American forestry workers and businesses too. Canada continues to press for a negotiated settlement, as that's in the best interest of both of our countries, and we will vigorously defend Canada's interests, particularly the interests of workers in our softwood lumber industry. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Deputy Leader of the Opposition.
Well, this is like a broken record with these Liberals. On Keystone, all the Prime Minister could muster was one call to Biden to get it before it got cancelled. On Line 5, the Prime Minister didn't even raise it with the President until he got pressure from the Conservatives. These Liberals have gone 6 years without a softwood lumber deal, Mr. Speaker. 6 years. This should not be a big surprise to the Minister of Natural Resources. On Friday, though, he revealed that the Americans won't even negotiate with him on softwood lumber. Why are Canada's natural resources and our resource workers always just an afterthought for these Liberals?
Honourable Minister.
Hardly the case, Mr. Speaker. Our workers are not an afterthought on softwood lumber, nor are they an afterthought on oil and gas. And I can tell you, particularly on line 5, the Government of Canada filing that amicus brief in the United States Federal Court, we did so with the support of provinces, industry, and labor. We are working together on a Team Canada approach because we know, Mr. Speaker, Canadians will not be left out in the cold. And on line 5, while that court process unfolds, we will keep working at the political and diplomatic levels to make sure that Canada's energy workers and our energy security are the top priorities. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, for 6 years now, Canada and the U.S. don't have an agreement on softwood lumber. We can understand that in the past 4 years under the former administration, relationship was difficult to say the least. But when President Biden was elected, the Prime Minister was very enthusiastic and happy to see that Canada now had an ally. The result, Mr. Speaker, when the Minister met with the American counterpart, what did the Americans do the next day? They imposed new tariffs. What is the point of a Liberal government saying they have a good relationship when the results don't follow? The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as I said, in softwood lumber, the duties, they are unjustified, they are unwarranted, they hurt our forestry workers, they hurt our businesses, but they hurt American forestry workers and businesses too, and that's why we continue to press for a negotiated settlement. We know that that's in the best interests of both of our countries. We will vigorously defend Canadian interests, the interests of our workers, and the interests of our softwood lumber industry. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for La Prairie. Mr. Speaker, Quebec, like its National Assembly, wants Bill 101 to apply to businesses under federal jurisdiction in Ottawa. The Minister says that she will protect the right to work in French, but that is not what Bill 101 does. It does not protect the right to work in French. It makes French the language of work in Quebec. Quebecers are not asking for the right to work in French. They already have the right to work in French. What they want is that French be the official language of work. Does the Minister agree that Bill 101 will apply to businesses under federal jurisdiction? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, we've all been saying since the beginning that French has been declining in Quebec. We have to do more. We're not only saying it, but we're taking action through what the Minister is doing. It's extremely important what we're doing, taking concrete action to strengthen French in Quebec, but also across the country. I think that the Bloc, instead of trying to quarrel about this, they should be happy. The Honourable Member for La Prairie. In its document on linguistic reform, the federal government is not announcing that it wants to make French the language of work in Quebec. It says that it wants to extend the Official Languages Act to all businesses under federal jurisdiction. That's not it. This bill is not to protect French. It's protecting bilingualism. Bilingualism has never been doing so well in Quebec ever. It's French that needs to be protected, not bilingualism. Will the government let Quebec apply Bill 101 to federally regulated businesses? If they want to protect French, that's what they need to do. The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I have more bad news for the Bloc Québécois. We're working quite well now with the government of Quebec in order to strengthen French across the country and Quebec. And I know that the Bloc doesn't like this when there's no quarrels, but we are working hand in hand to ensure that French, this language that we love so dearly, it does well and be resilient and be there for generations to come. The Honourable Member for Burnaby South.
15 Indigenous children were found buried at a former residential school in Kamloops. We all mourn the loss of those children. But to honor their lives, we need to move beyond words to action. Right now, this Prime Minister is fighting Indigenous kids in court. Right now, this Prime Minister is fighting survivors of residential schools in court. Will this Prime Minister move beyond words to actions and stop fighting these kids in court and these survivors in court?
Yes. The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, this government has said time and time again that we will compensate children for the harm that they have suffered, and we have acknowledged as much. This is a time where we perhaps do need to reflect on the course of reconciliation, but this is also a time where we must continue with the communities at the forefront to help their search in the truth. There can be no healing without the truth. We will work with those communities, surrounding communities, and all Indigenous communities that are hurting to pursue the truth. There can be no healing without the truth. We will put resources to help them and to help them in their healing and continuing on this path and ensuring that the truth comes out so that we all Canadians, all Indigenous peoples in Canada can look it straight in the eyes and not look.
Honourable Member for Burnaby South.
La découverte.
The discovery of 215 Indigenous children who had been buried in the grounds of a former residential school hit people hard across the country. We mourn the loss of these children. In order to honor the lives of those children, we must go beyond words. Will the Prime Minister commit to stop taking children, Indigenous children, to court, as well as the survivors of Indian residential schools to court? Yes or no? The Honourable Minister. This government has been quite clear that we would compensate those who were wronged in the welfare system. It's time to think about reconciliation. Now is the time to accompany the communities in mourning in their search for truth, to ensure that the entire truth is known. Until the whole truth is known, there will be no healing. So there is no healing without truth.
Member for Carleton.
In a stunning reversal, the CRTC has decided to increase the wholesale fees that small internet service providers are forced to pay to the large telecom oligarchs in this country. This, of course, reinforces the exceptionally high prices that Canadians already pay for connectivity that is much less expensive in other OECD countries. It also runs against the Liberal promise to reduce rates by 25%. Isn't it not time, Mr. Speaker, that we change this uncompetitive oligopoly and provide more competition and choice to consumers?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I welcome the question from my honourable colleague. As he knows well, our government has been relentless in promoting competition to lower prices while working to improve the quality and increase the coverage of telecom services in Canada. We are ensuring, Mr. Speaker, that Canadians pay affordable prices for reliable internet services, regardless of where they live in our nation. We'll keep on working with service providers and industry partners to drive investment and make telecommunication services more affordable and accessible for all Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Carleton.
But it's exactly the opposite that the Liberals promised during the election. They said that they would work with the regulatory agencies in order to ensure a 25% cut for consumers. Now we see that the CRTC has increased prices. Obviously, these increases will be passed on to consumers. It's clear there is not enough competition here in Canada. What will the government do to open up this system to greater competition to ensure that we can have a real free market? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank my honourable colleague who should know, Mr. Speaker, that our government constantly promotes competition to lower prices across the country while ensuring the approval of quality and, of course, the coverage of services in the telecommunications sector in Canada. We want Canadians to have access to affordable, efficient service no matter where they live. We will continue to work with service providers and partners to promote investments and make these internet services more affordable for all Canadians across the country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Richmond North Athabasca. Mr. Speaker, last week the Minister of Heritage implied that Bill C-10 would not restrict net neutrality in any way, yet the Liberal government in its Bill C-10 is giving the CRTC greater powers to regulate social networks, blogs, online gaming sites, applications, even audiobooks. Does the minister really believe that regulating these platforms is consistent with the principle of net neutrality? Yes or no? The Honourable Minister.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, Bill C-10 does not deal with ISPs, Internet Service Providers. All it does is it asks the web giants like Netflix to contribute to the creation of creative content in Canada. It's work that is created in Canada. It's our artists, but there is nothing against net neutrality. It does not affect ISPs or Internet Service Providers. The Honourable Member for Richmond North Athabasca. Mr. Speaker, in an internal memo that was given to the minister, it's clearly indicated that applications like YouTube, TikTok, Amazon Prime, NHL.TV, TVA, Sports Direct, RDSC Direct, Sportsnet Now, PlayStation, and a number of others will be subject to CRTC rules. I would repeat my question. It's a very simple question. Can the minister tell us if he really believes that regulating these platforms that I named and others is consistent with net neutrality? Yes or no? That's it. The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I answered the question, but the Broadcasting Act has not been updated for 30 years. In the meantime, foreign web giants have come onto the market. They've made money in Canada without contributing to our creative industries. Bill C-10 seeks to modernize our broadcasting sector. Why did the Conservatives promise from the beginning to block C-10 and to let these web giants earn money and revenues in Canada without creating jobs and content in Canada?
For Lethbridge.
We often hear it said that diversity is our strength. At least that's what the Prime Minister often says. Now, the irony with this is that Bill C-10 actually attacks diversity by narrowly defining what is constituted as Canadian content, therefore what will be demoted and what will be promoted online. Now, government-censored choice is not choice, and government-approved diversity is not true diversity. So why is the minister insistent on hindering the expression of those who don't fit his mold?
Wow. Honourable Minister.
The Broadcasting Act has not been updated for 30 years, and during that time, foreign web giants have stepped into that void. They've made money in Canada without contributing to our cultural creative industries. Bill C-10 seeks to modernize our broadcasting system and to level the playing field between our traditional broadcasters and these foreign web giants. Why have the Conservatives vowed from the very beginning to block Bill C-10 and let these web giants make money in Canada without contributing to our Canadian jobs and creations?
The Honourable Member for Lethbridge.
Well, this bill has everything to do with attacking Canadians and nothing to do with going after these web giants. Canadian content creators from minority groups are doing better than ever on platforms like YouTube. They are able to reach a global audience without any interference from the government. Now we're hearing from leaders in these groups that these artists will be among the hardest hit with Bill C-10 should it go through. So why is the government so adamant on picking what is and what is not Canadian and thereby suppressing the voices of minority groups in Canada?
The Honourable Minister.
Broadcasting Act hadn't been updated in 30 years before streaming services even became a part of the way Canadians found their shows, movies, and music. It needed an update. The rules for social media companies and obligations are restricted to requiring them to report the revenues that they make in Canada, contributing a portion of those revenues back to Canadian cultural industries, and to make Canadian creators discoverable. That is good for Canadian jobs and our Canadian artists.
L'honorable député.
The Honourable Member for Rivière-du-Nord. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on Wednesday, the Minister of Justice announced that he would appoint a judge who had donated $2,200 to his writing and nomination campaign. It's the second time the minister had announced the appointment of one of his benefactors. Last year, he appointed a donor who had given $2,900. The minister was too hasty this time. He was too eager, and the appointment was not yet official. The candidacy is supposedly still under consideration. Before he appoints another donor, we need to have an independent judicial appointment process, yes or no? The Honourable Minister.
L'Honorable Ministre.
The Honourable Minister.
On va prendre ça pour une réponse positive, Monsieur le Président.
On va seconde voir.
Just a moment, we'll see what's happening. Then we'll move on to the next question. The Honourable Minister for a final time. Mr. Speaker, my colleague has technical issues and cannot answer the question asked by the colleague opposite. Obviously, the process is independent, respecting all the rules. My colleague knows that full well. The Honourable Member for Rivière-du-Nord. Mr. Speaker, it was a mistake. The minister didn't want to announce the appointment of this judge who was a donor on Twitter, but the simple fact that his name was on the minister's Twitter account reveals the extent to which he was one of the top considered candidates. The Liberals are filtering the candidates. It's a partisan tool, and they're looking at the donation history of future judges. Last year, the minister appointed another one of his personal donors. When will the minister finally implement an appointment process based only on impartial criteria? The Honourable Minister.
Monsieur le Président, on a...
Mr. Speaker, we put in place a judicial appointment process for judges who are qualified and also to ensure diversity. With regard to the issue raised by the member, we want to stress that the Ethics Commissioner raised the fact that a donation does not necessarily mean there is a friendship. We're doing a good job in ensuring judicial diversity. The Honourable Member for Rivière-du-Nord. Mr. Speaker, let's be clear. We're not calling into question the quality of these candidates. We're questioning the fact that Liberals are looking at them to know who is a Liberal donor. The result is that today the minister has mistakenly announced the appointment of one of his donors. Last year, he actually appointed one of his donors. 2 years ago, the Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs managed to appoint 4 of his donors. Does the minister realize that it's hard to believe in coincidences when it's his own office that appoints the judges? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, with regard to the tweets, it was not the minister himself, but by departmental officials. There were apologies given with regard to the individual named. We have resolved the issue, and we will resolve the situation. Thank you.
For Wellington, Halton Hills.
Mr. Speaker, on March 31st, 2 years ago, the government's lab in Winnipeg shipped Ebola and Hennepin viruses to the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Have there been any other shipments from the Winnipeg lab to the Wuhan lab of viruses or of other materials?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the question. As the member opposite knows, the National Microbiology Lab is a secure facility. We take threats to research security, intellectual property very seriously. Everyone working and visiting the National Microbiology Lab must undergo security screening and adhere to strict security protocols, procedures, and policies. We'll never put the health and safety of Canadians' health at risk.
The Honourable Member for Wellington, Halton Hills.
Mr. Speaker, if that's true, then how on earth did a Chinese military scientist gain access to work in the Winnipeg lab? And did the sudden departure of the two most senior people at the Public Health Agency of Canada last year in the middle of the pandemic have anything to do with this? The head of the lab, Dr. Matthew Gilmore, on Friday, May 15th, and the president of the agency, Ms. Tina Nemianovsky, on Friday, September the 18th.
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as the member opposite knows, I'm not at liberty to discuss the confidential reasons why the scientists have left the lab. They are subject to privacy concerns, as the member opposite knows. But let me be clear. The National Microbiology Lab is a Canadian jewel. It is a secure facility. Everyone who works at the facility or visits the facility must undergo security screening and adhere to strict security protocols, procedures, and policies. Mr. Speaker, we will never put Canadians' health at risk.
The Honourable Member for Charlesbourg-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, last year at the beginning of the pandemic, when we asked the Prime Minister if it was possible to prevent flights coming from China to come in, what did the Prime Minister do? He called us racist. Last week, we asked questions about the most secret lab in Canada. What happens? We get treated as racists. We have a simple question. We want to know if there are people with ties to the Communist China regime who were working in our labs. The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as I've said repeatedly in this House, every individual that works or visits the lab undergoes strict security screenings and protocols. Mr. Speaker, this is a secure lab. It is a crown jewel. We are so proud of the work that is done at the National Microbiology Lab, and indeed are grateful to the scientists and researchers that are working so hard on ensuring that we have what we need to understand COVID, to test for COVID, and to support provinces and territories in their hard work to do so. We will never put, Mr. Speaker, privacy, intellectual property at risk. We will ensure that the lab continues to operate in a secure and safe fashion.
The Honourable Member for Winnipeg Centre.
Mr. Speaker, once again, residential school survivors, families, and nations are mourning with the news of 215 children found buried in a mass grave at Kamloops Indian Residential School. In response to this tragedy, the UBC Indian Residential School History and Dialogue Centre is calling on the federal government to make immediate investments to assist nations in locating children who never returned home. When will this government get serious about implementing the TRC calls to action, including 73 and 75, and bring our children home?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank my friend from Winnipeg Centre for her question. We are heartbroken at the discovery of the remains of the 215 children in Kamloops. This is a horrific tragedy that has once again deepened the wounds of the survivors of residential schools, their families, and Indigenous people across Canada. We've been working with the National Centre for Truth and Reconciliation to develop and maintain the National Residential School Student Death Register and to create an online registry of residential school cemeteries. We're also currently engaging with Indigenous communities impacted by residential schools on how best to implement calls to action 72 to 76 and invest the $33.8 million.
The Honourable Member for Nunavut.
Mr. Speaker, the federal government and churches ripped children away from their homes, put them into residential schools, and kept their bodies. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission lays out a clear path to doing the right thing. Yet, this federal government has stayed at a standstill. There were 3-year-old babies in the ground, Mr. Speaker. How many more are there? When will the federal government implement calls to action 71 through 76? Our children's bodies deserve to come home.
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to once again thank my friend from Nunavut for that very important question, and certainly share in the grief that she's outlined. This is a national tragedy, one that our government's been working on for the past 6 years to rectify. We are fully committed to implementing the Truth and Reconciliation Commission calls to action, all 94 of them, but most notably calls to action 72 to 76, and we're investing $33 $33.8 million through Budget 2019 in order to engage with Indigenous communities impacted by residential schools on how best to implement these calls. We look forward to working with everyone on this.
For Northwest Territories.
Mr. Speaker, here in Northwest Territories, we've experienced significant flooding in the recent weeks. Residents of Fort Simpson, Jean Marie, and Fort Good Hope have suffered major damage to their homes, and other communities along the Mackenzie River have also had high water levels. Can the Minister of Public Safety and Emergency Preparedness please update the House on how the Government of Canada is working with its partners to assist NBTers affected by this flooding?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I'd like to thank the member from the Northwest Territories, not only for his important question, but for his tireless and unrelenting advocacy to ensure that members of his community receive the help that they required. As we have said throughout the pandemic, our government will always be there to protect Canadians through any type of emergency. Recently, our government has approved a request for assistance to deploy up to 60 Canadian Forces Rangers to the territory in order to assist communities which are being impacted or at risk of floods. The Rangers will continue their support until the situation has stabilized, and we are always ready to adapt the model as required by the people of the Northwest Territories. Mr. Speaker, I take the opportunity to thank all of the Canadian Armed Forces and the Rangers for their outstanding work.
The Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes.
The Justice Minister let it slip that he was making yet another judicial appointment to a top campaign donor. Another day, another Liberal minister helping an insider jump the queue to get the inside track. Canadians expect their judges to be their appointments to be based solely on merit, not on their connections to Liberal ministers. Will the Justice Minister tell Canadians the minimum donation to his campaign needed to be considered for an appointment?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we have taken a significant and important step to ensure that the process for naming judges is transparent and accountable to Canadians. Those reforms include revamping the judicial advisory committees that provide independent recommendations to the minister. That's resulted in a modernized judicial appointment process that not only meets the needs of the court, but also reflects Canada's diversity.
The Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes.
If these Liberals appointed judges in a transparent way, solely on their merit, using a nonpartisan process, then why did the Justice Minister delete the tweet naming his campaign donor and then throw the public service under the bus for it? It's clear being a Liberal donor is a prerequisite for a lawyer to be appointed to the bench under this Justice Minister. Liberals helping Liberals. When will the Justice Minister start appointing judges based solely on their merit rather than on donations to his election campaigns?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, allow me to quote the Ethics Commissioner on this very issue. Quote, making donations to a political party or to a particular riding does not indicate in itself a friendship. It is perfectly legal to make political donations, end quote. Mr. Speaker, what we want is qualified candidates from all backgrounds and all political stripes to bring their names forward, and we are disappointed that the official opposition is turning this into a partisan game.
The Honourable Member for Kelowna Lake Country.
Mr. Speaker, a new report from the UK is raising alarms about solar panel part manufacturers in China who have been linked to the potential use of forced labor of Uyghurs. While Canada says it has trade measures in place on forced labor, the Trade Minister could not tell me back in April if Canada had even stopped one shipment using them. Can the Minister confirm now if these trade measures have stopped any imports of solar panels made with forced labor of Uyghurs?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I want to assure my honourable colleague that we will always advocate and stand up for human rights around the world. Our government is actively working on operationalizing the forced labor ban. We're doing that together with our colleagues over at the CBSA and also with Labour. And we're working across the government and also with our international partners to ensure that Canadian businesses here at home or abroad are not unknowingly involved in any supply chains involving forced labor. We expect Canadian companies around the world to respect human rights and to operate at the highest ethical level. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Kelowna Lake Country.
Mr. Speaker, reports indicate that nearly half of the world's polysilicon used in solar panels are produced in Xinjiang. Concerns have been raised for months that Uyghur forced labor may be used in these supply chains. The fact that the minister cannot say whether trade measures are preventing imports is disappointing. What is the point of these measures if they don't have any teeth? Will the government commit to reviewing Canada's solar panel supply chains and their failing forced labour trade measures?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, standing up for human rights is what we have been unequivocal about. We expect Canadian companies who are working here in Canada as well as around the world to respect human rights and to operate at the highest ethical standards. We're working actively to operationalize the forced labor ban. We're working across the government as well as with our international partners so that we can operationalize the ban, but more importantly, to ensure that businesses are not unknowingly involved in any supply chains that would involve forced labor. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
L'honorable député de...
The Honourable Member for Salaberry-sur-Roi. Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Indigenous Services said on Saturday that it's unacceptable that the Indian Act has not yet been repealed. Well, I would remind him that he is the minister, and his government has been in office for 6 years. He's right that this must be done in partnership with Indigenous peoples, Quebec, and the provinces. But in 6 years, there hasn't been a single discussion that has actually led to an agreement. What concrete action is the minister taking to abolish the Indian Act? The Honourable Minister. Yes, Mr. Speaker. This is a subject that is particularly painful given the news from this weekend. Obviously, the Indian Act is an unacceptable act, but we also can't just repeal it overnight from Ottawa. This is something that needs to be done in partnership with the Indigenous communities affected. And with all due respect, the member is wrong. Newer treaties, particularly in the West, have shown that progress can be made. There were communities in the North who have been real leaders in decolonization. The Honourable Member for Salaberry-sur-Roi. Mr. Speaker, we were all devastated by the discovery of the bodies of 215 children buried at a former Kamloops residential school. This is the Indian Act. It creates two classes of humans and treats the second class with inhumanity. Today, we need to ensure that we find all the missing children who were buried at residential schools. Will the minister commit to funding this search so that we can do our duty of remembrance and so that First Nations can mourn properly? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, we will absolutely work with communities on this. I would also remind the member of Call to Action 76, which says that it is Indigenous communities themselves which need to lead this effort. If they want to conduct searches, we will be there to help them. The provinces have indicated the same. I think that we need to show all Canadians that we will be there with Indigenous people in this search for truth and healing. Thank you.
Permission, Matsky, Fraser Canyon.
Mr. Speaker, today is the 30th and final day for the Minister to report to Parliament on the effectiveness of the National Housing Strategy through its first triennial report. In every single part of this country, housing prices continue to rise. The cost of construction is skyrocketing, and young Canadians and first-time home buyers are telling the government their dream of home ownership is more and more out of reach. So why is the minister leaving transparency to the last minute? Is he trying to delay proof of their record?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we remain firmly committed to tackling the crucial issue of housing affordability in Canada. Our government is focused on ensuring that Canada's residential housing stock is not used unproductively by non-resident, non-Canadian investors. That's why we're proposing an annual 1% tax on the value of non-resident, non-Canadian owned residential real estate that's considered to be vacant or underused. Budget 2021 is also the fifth consecutive budget that our government has presented that provides more money for affordable housing, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Prince George, Peace River, Northern Rockies.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has claimed that science and evidence must always underpin the decisions made by any government. However, evidence acquired by BCWF's Jesse Zeman showed a DFO Assistant Deputy Minister's office altered a key scientific report to downplay the threats to endangered steelhead. Even DFO scientist Sean McConaughey warned that this interference, quote, continues to compromise the scientific integrity of the process. How can this government say its decisions are based on science when they so clearly undermine science when making these decisions?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank my honourable colleague for the question. Mr. Speaker, DFO takes all the best available science in making its decisions with regards to the steelhead trout, with regards to salmon, with regards to pretty every species. We will continue to work with our Indigenous partners, with the provinces and territories to make sure that we're doing everything we can to protect these very endangered species. Thank you.
L'honorable député de Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier.
The honourable member for Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Many companies need help bringing in foreign workers. Some have been waiting for a very long time since spring of 2020. The answers that they're given include, it's because of COVID, or we're dealing with other essential files. For the past year, the pandemic has been part of our daily lives, but the reality is that this problem has been going on for much longer. Worse still, Quebec has disproportionate delays compared to the two other provinces. Can the Minister of Immigration tell us what he intends to do to solve this problem quickly and to show respect for Quebec entrepreneurs? The Honourable Minister.
Recognizes the importance of temporary foreign workers. For example, for our producers and food processors, we are working tirelessly to ensure that temporary foreign workers can arrive safely in Canada by supporting employers, for example, with additional cost incurred to accommodate the isolation period. All the federal departments involved in a temporary foreign worker have worked together to simplify processes and facilitate as much as possible the safe entry of workers. We recognize the integral role of temporary foreign workers and, for example, food processing employers play in ensuring Canadians have access to food, and we are here to support them.
Honorable député d'Alfred Pellan.
The honourable member for Alfred Pellan. Mr. Speaker, Quebec's reopening is the result of great sacrifices that Quebecers have made in fighting COVID-19. I want to thank my fellow citizens for rolling up their sleeves and doing their part. Quebec is finally coming out of lockdown, but we can't let up. Not after all of the progress that we've made. It's by vaccinating people that we will continue to fight COVID. Can the Minister provide an update on the vaccines that Quebecers are relying on to get back to their normal lives? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank my colleague from Alfred Pellan for his excellent work. Quebec has had one good news story after another. From Gatineau to Gaspé, people are rolling up their sleeves. We've received 5.8 million doses in Quebec and more than 26 million across Canada. That represents 59% of Quebecers. And, Mr. Speaker, I encourage everyone to keep up the momentum. Over 56% of Canadians have now had their first dose. What we are doing right now is historic. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Member for Calgary-Shepherd.
An internal government communication plan from the PMPRB labels patient organizations like CF Canada and the Canadian Organization for Rare Disorders as engaging in disinformation. The PMPRB is not accusing these patient groups, of being misinformed or having a different opinion. They're calling patient groups, often run by moms, dads, and sick kids, they're calling them liars. My question to the Health Minister is simple. Does she approve of what the PMPRB is doing? And if not, is she going to rein them in?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, first let me say that I personally have met with many patient groups since becoming Minister of Health and prior to that, and this government is always willing to listen to families and patient groups that, of course, are advocating for the best treatment for their family members and their loved ones. In regards to the PMPRB, the organization has undertaken important work to understand the pricing of drugs here in Canada, and as you know, that work is an essential part in our commitment to lowering the cost of drugs, including for rare diseases for all Canadians in this country.
The Honourable Member for Essex.
Mr. Speaker, weeks ago, Michigan generously offered its surplus vaccines to residents in Windsor, Essex. While thousands of vaccines are being tossed daily by the city of Detroit, despite repeated appeals by local officials, this government has taken no action. Mr. Speaker, only 4% of Canadians are fully vaccinated. Among those waiting are hundreds of thousands of local residents. Enough with the excuses, delays, and liberal red tape. When will this government take action to ensure the U.S. vaccines are available immediately?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, let me tell the opposition and my honourable colleague about taking action. We have delivered 26.2 million doses to provinces and territories. More than 60% of eligible Canadians have received at least one dose. We are second, actually, Mr. Speaker, in the G20 at the current time, and we are bringing in millions and millions of doses every single week for Canadians, and we won't stop until all Canadians have access to vaccines. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Cypress Hills Grasslands.
The Liberals' quarantine hotels have been a disaster from the beginning. Before it officially began, some confused Canadians were put into the program. Families were not told where their loved ones were being taken. Stories of mistreatment and sexual assault weren't enough for the Liberals to reconsider. They kept saying it would prevent new variants from entering Canada. Guess what? It didn't work the way they said it would, and they failed to protect Canadians. Will they listen to the expert advisory panel and scrap the failed program?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, let me start by thanking Canadians for their commitment to staying home during this time where we're all working to fight COVID-19. In fact, travel volumes are down by 95% prior to COVID-19 striking our shores. And I want to thank Canadians for their incredible sacrifices. I'll also say this, Mr. Speaker, the report from the panel, the testing and screening panel, is very important to chart our next steps on the border. I'll be meeting with my health minister colleagues in the next days to come, and we'll have a conversation about next steps together. This is a Team Canada approach.
The Honourable Member for Newmarket, Aurora.
Mr. Speaker, York Region has over 2,400 diesel buses travel from the Richmond Hill Viva station to the Finch subway station as part of the regular daily commuter traffic. The recent announcement on smart transit funding for the GTA, including the Yonge North subway extension, is great news for our communities. Can the Minister of Infrastructure and Communities share with us how this investment will benefit more than the 1.2 million Canadians that live in York Region?
The Honourable Minister.
Happy World Environment Week to everyone. I want to thank the Honourable Member and his York Region colleagues for their continuous support and advocacy for this project. Our historic investment of $2.24 billion for the Yonge North subway expansion will benefit commuters from across the region, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and create good jobs for Canadians. This funding includes a number of conditions, including requirements to hire historically disadvantaged groups. And a shout out to CHEO. I'm happy to support youth mental health and color my hair green.
The Honourable Member for Timmins, James Bay.
The discovery of the bodies of 215 First Nation children at an old Catholic residential school site has set off shockwaves of grief across this country because it is a dark symbol of the war against First Nation children that has gone on from Confederation right up to this day. And this Prime Minister has spent over $9 million on lawyers trying to overturn the Human Rights Tribunal that found his government guilty of systemic discrimination against First Nation children. So stop with the crocodile tears. It's time to end the war against First Nation kids. When is he going to stop paying the lawyers and pay the compensation that these children are deserving and should be getting now?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to reiterate that we're heartbroken by the discovery of the remains of the 215 children in Kamloops. This is a horrific tragedy that has once again deepened the wounds of the survivors of residential schools, their families, and Indigenous people across Canada. We worked with the National Centre for Truth and Reconciliation to develop and maintain the National Residential School Student Death Register and to create an online registry of residential school cemeteries. We're also working with communities to develop culturally appropriate approaches to identifying the deceased children, locating burial sites, and memorializing those who died.
The Honourable Member for Nanaimo, Ladysmith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Canadians have been struggling to make ends meet through the pandemic. At the same time, 4 of Canada's big banks have raised service charges. Small businesses that are struggling to stay afloat are being fleeced by excessive transaction fees. Despite low lending rates, the interest rate on credit cards remains high. Payday loan companies prey on the hardship of low-income Canadians. all of these financial service providers continue to post record profits. Will the government rein in these exploitive corporations to protect Canadians and small businesses?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I would like to thank the member opposite for his hard work and commitment. Let me just say that we agree that now more than ever, everyone needs to pay their fair share and do their part. That is why in the budget, we commit to taking action to reducing credit card interchange fees. We know that small businesses have been among the hardest hit by this pandemic. We know those credit card fees hurt them, and that is why we are committed to working to support them.
And that's all the time we have. C'est tout le temps que nous avons pour la période de questions. The Honourable Member for Kingston and the Islands is rising on a point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to respond to the question of privilege from the member from Elgin, Middlesex, London. I understand the concerns raised by the member. This was indeed an unfortunate and unacceptable incident. I would simply like to point out that the member from Pontiac has taken responsibility for this incident. He has apologized and proactively disclosed that the incident occurred. He has stepped aside from his parliamentary secretary responsibilities and from his committee responsibilities, and he has stated publicly that he will seek assistance. In light of the fact that the member has indicated that he is taking some time to seek assistance, he cannot apologize in person or virtually for this incident, but he has apologized in his statement on social media, and he has asked that I convey this apology to members in this House on his behalf. While this incident is indeed unfortunate and unacceptable, I do not believe that it constitutes a question of privilege. There is a long-standing tradition in this House that when a member apologizes, the House accepts that apology. I believe that the member from Pontiac understands the seriousness of the incident, has apologized for it, and is taking the appropriate steps to ensure that nothing like this happens again. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank the Honourable Member, and I will take it under consideration. Tabling of documents. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Pursuant to Standing Order 36(8A), I have the honour to table in both official languages the government's responses to 28 petitions. These returns will be tabled in an electronic format.
Dépôt de projet de loi.
Introduction of government bills.
Statements by ministers. Reports from interparliamentary delegations. The Honourable Member for Vancouver Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Conformément à l'article.
Pursuant to Clause 34.1, to Standing Order 34.1.
I'm hearing the interpreter. J'ai l'honneur.
I have the honour to table